In the game of loans, you either win or you learn. Welcome to the game of loans, where fortunes are forged and empires are built. Your hosts, lords of lending and wholesaling, are here to guide you through the realm of real estate and wealth building. Brace yourselves, cash flow is coming. Welcome to the game of loans, episode number 22. My guest, Manuel Gonzamonte.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here in such an inclusive podcast.
Yes, very. We include goat herders
okay.
on our podcast.
All right.
What we're going to talk about today is some of the challenges that aren't shown by shows like, I don't know, Flip This
HGTV.
House, HGTV. I don't even watch that crap, to be honest with you.
I've never watched it either.
It's fucking frustrating.
Most people do, though. A lot of people do.
Idiots do. Sorry,
Wow.
Johnny. I'll take that back. No. A lot of people do.
watch it.
It's entertainment.
It is entertainment.
But it's
more
not
than
real.
Anything. Yeah.
It's not real.
So if you think you're going to get some business inside advice from that show, you're not.
No, you don't. You're not going to get. So now, why do I say it's unrealistic or it's fake? Well, most of the stuff, if they show you what really happens, it's not good for TV, right?
Nobody will watch.
So every deal has to be a success. Every deal has to fucking be a home run.
Yeah, it has to look amazing.
Every deal doesn't have any problems with it, which is bullshit. It's just, that's not the case. You know,
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know I've been flipping homes. I shouldn't say me, but my father was one of the largest, back then, they wouldn't call them flippers, they were called speculators. Okay? That's what they were called because they were buying what was back then called spec homes. We used to call flip homes spec homes. So then guys who used to buy spec homes were speculators. That term's gone. The new term is flippers. And I remember, and I go back way back when, I was like 12, 13, something like that, 14 even, and my father and his partners were actually buying blocks, like a whole fucking block.
How many houses in that block?
It could be anywhere like 10, 15, 20 homes, right?
Wow.
But they were buying different blocks in New York City, not Manhattan, but Queens or Brooklyn, that were burnt down or just fucked up, empty. They were buying them from HUD for $5,000. $5,000.
The whole block.
Yes, $5,000. $5,000 for a whole block.
When was this? 1800s?
No, early 80s.
Shit, could you find neighborhoods, like blocks for $5,000?
Yeah, but remember, back then, it's not what people envision New York being right now.
So what was it?
It was
that they were able to do that?
Fucking burnouts, just fucked up homes, people not living in them, bad conditions. It took a long time. What people don't understand is they see a place like South Jamaica. Now it's called downtown Jamaica or places like that. Those fucking places were unlivable. You couldn't live in that. People lived there, but those were some rough conditions. I'd like to say, a lot of people from the West Coast talk about Watts and fucking Compton and shit. South Jamaica or the South Bronx used to make places like Compton look like fucking Beverly Hills. You could go, people could do their research, go and just look at videos in, let's say, the South Bronx in the 80s. It looked like Kosovo. It looked like a war zone. It was crazy. It really looked like a war zone.
So your dad was buying these blocks of home.
Yep.
And they were flipping all of them.
Yeah.
And who was buying this if the conditions of living there were so horrible back then?
So then they would buy it, they would fix it up and resell it. But it wasn't like now. Those homes are now going in the mid fives up to millions of dollars some places, right? But But back then, I mean, they were selling it for like $15,000, $17,000, $20,000 if they were lucky. You know, it wasn't like high-end neighborhoods, but I mean, do the numbers. The numbers still, actually worked out. But I would say, you have places, let's say even like in Bushwick, that came up a little bit later, like Bushwick or Bedford-Stuyvesant. Those places started getting converted or gentrified, or starting to get gentrified, or starting to change in the 90s. I mean, you couldn't go down a street like a normal person couldn't really live in those neighborhoods. You'd get shot. But, there was no appreciation for what these guys did, what we did over there. Nothing. I mean, these guys everybody created so many millionaires, over the years. Because remember, a lot of those people are still living in those neighborhoods. They bought those homes in the 80s, those brownstones, 2-family, 4-family, let's say for $150,000, $165,000. Now the same brownstones, some of them are going for $2 million. I mean, think about that type of investment.
Just by holding them.
Just by living in their neighborhoods. And what would happen is, the greatest thing that could happen, and I tell people, it's like they could talk all the shit that they want, that it was, again, I'm not saying they're talking shit, but they could say whatever they want, that Giuliani and Bloomberg and stuff, they increased the police forces, and they cleaned up the city, right? There is truth to that, some. But the real truth is, you want to clean up a place, you have to give people home ownership, because then they have a stake in that particular neighborhood, right? To not want there to be crime, to not want there to be drugs, and to be able to force that bad element out of the neighborhood. Unless they have home ownership, people don't give a shit. If it's their landlord's home, who cares? I wouldn't give. I mean, I grew up different, but they those people that they just didn't care. And then the only way that things started to change in those neighborhoods was with home ownership, even in the Bronx. I mean, I never thought in my life, honestly, like even me, who was an optimist, and I saw the change in places like Queens and change in places like Brooklyn. The Bronx was next level, like South Bronx and things like that. I never thought that those places were ever going to get, gentrified or even, from the crime from coming in, from stopping and stuff. I always thought those places were gone,
Wow.
I mean, again,
it did come back.
Again, people can go and people can YouTube South Bronx or the Bronx 1980, 1982. The fucking heads will blow up.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to. It literally looked like a war zone.
And let me tell you something that I want to bring up is people don't realize how incredibly difficult it is to flip a house. I'm not talking about a block like your dad was doing. A house in a neighborhood that has those conditions. It is pretty insane how difficult it is. I'm going to tell you a quick story of one house that I bought in a gentrified neighborhood near downtown Nashville, Tennessee. I bought this house because I was looking
what year?
This was, I'm talking about 3 years ago. Not even.
So you're talking 2022.
2022.
Like recently, pretty much in the scope of fucking events in life.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about 40 years ago like your dad was doing it. But here's the thing. I saw what was happening around the neighborhood. You see these small houses being torn down and put in this tall and skinny, multiple units in one lot where there was only one house there. And I was like, you know what? I want part of that action. So I was able to get in contact with a wholesaler that sold me a house that I could flip at a very good price. Now, little did I know all the challenges that came with flipping a house in a gentrified neighborhood. People do not understand.
And that's gentrifying. That's already half gentrified.
That's already happening. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's not even like the beginning.
Yeah, it's not even the beginning.
One of the things that happened to me, apart from all the rookie mistakes that I made, because that was my first flip, I do not recommend anybody flipping a house to do it in a gentrified neighborhood or in a neighborhood that is not even started, that process, because there's so many more challenges that you'll have to face. One of the stories is there was this group of drug lords, that monitor that area. That's their area. And the house that I was flipping has some outdoors outlet, so if you sat on the porch, you can plug in whatever, your radio, whatever you want. So they will go every afternoon and plug in
the outlet.
Yeah, an outlet, like anything that they needed. They will just park their huge cars there and just use everything. Like the house was theirs. There was nothing I could do. Then by the time I called the police arrived like an hour later. They were already gone. So there was nothing I can do.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I had to myself go into the house and remove the outlets and literally just put a piece of wood on it so they couldn't use it. And that was one of the best parts of it.
I wish that was a story that I had. I had fucking way worse shit than that happened to us.
Yeah, that was a nice one. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to, because remember, these were fucked up, burned out homes. So what would happen is back then, people, the way that they used to make money is by taking different types of metals. It didn't matter. And they would take the metals and go down to the metal guys and basically sell the fucking metal, right? So we used to have to put in brand new copper piping throughout the house, right?
Back then it was copper. That's crazy.
Copper.
Yeah.
Right? Come back in the morning and every single fucking pipe was pulled out the wall.
The wall was already closed?
Yeah.
Wow. So they will tear away the G-Rock or whatever you were using back then.
But you want to know who was doing it? Never believe
the ex-owner?
Nope. The same motherfuckers that were putting it in that day.
No.
Yep.
Seriously?
Yep. When we found out, they would come back, they would fucking lay the piping, get paid for it, and then they used to come in and tear every fucking thing right out. That's how crazy it was. I'm talking like, you're talking fucking outlet.
Yeah.
You couldn't put plumbing in these fucking homes.
Right.
Electricity, anything worth anything. Fucking, it could be toilets. Think about anything. God forbid you couldn't put a fucking refrigerator or dishwasher. It was so difficult. These were not even remotely gentrified. This is like, you're talking fucking war zone. And that is what we had to deal with. You're talking about a drug lord, right?
Yeah.
So my dad gets a sick deal on a house. And that's why I'm going to tell you, you got to be careful when people are giving you
deals.
Amazing deals.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes it's too good to be true. There's a fucking reason why it's too good to be true, right? And again, I'm talking 80s in New York. There was a lot of element, like criminal element and drug lord element, mafia element, everything that was happening then, right? So we got a house. He gets a house. Turns out the house is literally right next door to the biggest, and I won't say the name, but a lot of people know this person where I'm from in New York, okay? Because he was the largest crack dealer in New York.
He was making good money, huh?
Okay? Now, the problem back then was that he had everybody on the take. Police, everybody. Okay? So I remember, like, basically he used to use that house like, because it was his. And my father is a little crazy, like he didn't have, like, nothing scared him, right? So he would call the police, and I remember going down to the police station in Jamaica, and one of the sergeants coming out to meet with me and saying, "Hey, I'm just telling you this for your father's own good. Tell him not to come back here and make complaints against this guy." Because basically, probably one of the cops would have killed him or something. I don't even know. Again, I'm not anti-police. I'm not anti-anything. That's how it was back then, where he couldn't even go and complain. And for years, I would say 10 years, and I would tell my dad, just we wouldn't approach the guy. I mean, he used to sell crack, and then people that used to buy the crack used to come right to our house and just smoke crack.
Wow.
So it was a crack den.
Crack house, yeah.
So it was a crack house. That's what it was. Not his house. It was fucking right next door. His house was precious and clean and everything.
Perfect spot. Right after you buy it, you just go into another house and smoke it.
Right next door. And they used to it would just be a crack house.
That's
and
crazy.
It took us such a long time. And my dad just held on to it. We just held on to it. And we, it was just difficult. Do
you remember the price, what he paid for it?
I don't know, like probably $12,000, $14,000, right? But I mean, it cost him a lot more because insurance and stuff. I remember we sent out, so back then it wasn't, we didn't have computers or satellites and shit. So
right.
The insurance people had to go out and actually inspect the house. The insurance guy goes out there, he got out of the car, and they shot up his car.
They shot up his car?
They shot up his car because they thought it was a appraiser and we were trying to sell the house. So I basically had to go to the guy and say, hey, we're not selling this house. Let us at least get insurance on this. God forbid it burns out. And you know what? I had to get his fucking permission.
Wow.
To let the insurance adjuster come.
So what did the insurance guy say?
And the fucking guy said, yeah, okay. He goes, if it's for insurance, on my house, if it's for insurance, I'll let the guy come in and fucking do the inspection for the insurance. On my fucking house. He's allowed me to do it.
That is pretty crazy.
And he would just say, and a little bit of him admired my father, and my dad is lucky, because he would say to me, I cannot believe that your father is still willing to own this house with everything. And I used to tell him, like, my dad is resilient as they come. And I think there was a little bit of respect there, and that's the only reason he didn't do anything to my dad.
Wow.
Just because he realized, wow, this guy's he's just as crazy as he is. And, he is, and that was it. It was crazy, man.
That was crazy.
I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna tell one more horror story about flipping houses, but I don't want your audience to get confused. Flipping houses is a great business.
Oh, it's a great business
if you do it well.
Yes.
And we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
So one of the times that I was flipping this house, the same house that I told you about.
Yeah.
This was my first house flipping. You want to know how much of a rookie I was? What was the first thing I put on the house?
What?
What is the worst thing you could put first on a house when it's not finished?
Paint?
I put the freaking floors first.
Oh,
before sheetrock, before anything. Horrible. That's how much of a rookie I was.
Okay.
So one night, I'm sleeping with my now wife. Back then, we weren't even engaged, were we? I don't remember. Well, we were sleeping in bed, and I was waking up every single day at 5 a.m. I will go to that house and supervise everything, and I will come back home every single day at 7 p.m.
Okay.
That was an everyday thing. Sunday, Saturdays, all day included. So one morning, I wake up, and as soon as I wake up, my phone is ringing. Like 7 missed calls. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it was all of my workers, my plumbers, my sheetrock guys, everybody. They were all calling me. And I was like, I pick up and I say, Beto, what's going on? I just woke up. Well, why are you guys calling me so much? And he was like, Mr. Manuel, the house has been raided. There's nothing here.
Oh, my God.
Nothing here. And I was like, what do you mean there's nothing?
And this is semi-gentrified.
Semi-gentrified. And I'm talking that I left that house at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
It is 5 a.m.
And they took everything.
Everything. And he said, there is nothing left. Your tools, the fridge, the microwave, the sink. It was emptied.
Yeah.
And the phone was on speaker. Mm-hmm. My wife was listening to my conversation. And she just kept looking at me, and I just got dressed. I put everything on. I put my cologne on. I combed my hair. I was ready to get out of there, and she said, you're not going to react? I'm like, what's there to react to? That's just how it is.
Yeah.
That's part of it. So I went to the house, and Sure enough, the door was all messed up. Everything was gone. I lost around $14,000, and I was lucky.
Yeah.
Because I know it could be way worse than that. But you know who did it? Who do you think did it?
The guys next door.
No.
The guys that put in the stuff.
Homeless people.
Homeless people?
Yes, which is the biggest danger right now, because the moment they know a house is vacant and is being remodeled, they number one use that as a like a safety spot that they can just sleep in if it's cold outside. And this was winter, but they opened everything and sold everything in pawn shops.
So one thing I learned was in those neighborhoods, we had people. Then we started paying people just to sleep there.
Yeah, makes sense. So, I would have done the same thing.
So we had people that would come in, and we would just pay them, and they didn't have a place to stay anyway. Some of them were workers and stuff like that. And for every project that we had, if it was a livable house, we would just have them live there, and then with the finished product, they would live there until we sold the home.
Wow.
Because you couldn't leave the fucking house alone.
No.
You know? We used to board up. We used to finish the homes. Once it was finished, we used to have to board up the house.
Board up? What do you mean by that?
Like, put wood boarding on the doors, on the windows, and everything. So that it would be difficult for them to break in.
Oh, wow.
But that got too difficult, so we just started paying people, just our workers, just to stay there, and they were happy with it,
I'll be happy too if I was in that situation.
Yeah, because I'll tell you something. It's something as simple as that. What ends up happening is one thing about criminals, right? That people don't understand. With criminals, they're looking for the easy mark, right? So if you have someone living there, it gets a little bit more difficult.
It adds to the
and where do you
level,
think where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Fuck this, we'll go to the one other house. There's got nobody in there. We'll just raid that fucking house, So as long as you just make it a little bit difficult for them, you're 75, 80%
100%.
protected,
100%.
So one thing I'll say is this is the shit you have to think about when you decide to get into flipping and the neighborhood. So I will never say, you're going to find you got to have the stomach for it. The best deals you're going to find is always going to be in the gentrifying.
Best profit margins are there.
Or the hood.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So what you have to have the wherewithal to be able to deal with the problems that come with investing in the hood. You
have to have thick skin.
You have to have thick skin. You've got to have some chutzpah. You got to have balls. You got to have thick skin. And it's got to be an element of toughness to that.
100%.
You can't be a wimp. If you don't have the stomach for it, if you're a wimp, you're going to get victimized. That's just what it is. Because, they smell the weakness on you. And once they smell that and they see weakness, then you're fucking dead.
100%.
You're done.
They're going to extortionate that every single time.
100%.
Every single time. Yeah. But not only with that, even tenants, if you rent a house, if they smell a little bit of they can play with the rules and you're accepted, you're gone. Yeah.
And that's why, even with tenants, you're right. You have to make it very clear from the beginning. And this is what we do. We scare the shit out of our tenants in the beginning. And you just got to tell them, hey, we're going to come after you if you don't pay. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And you're right. Just to scare off the scammers.
100%. I have come to learn. I am a very good nature person. By nature, I am a very good person. That's how I was raised. But I have learned after many mistakes that when it comes to these type of things, it's better that they fear you than they like you.
100%.
You don't want to be liked. You'd rather be feared, because if not, they're going to walk all over you. Yeah. They're going to find ways to extortionate you, just like you said.
What you have to do is you have to not just fear it, you have to be respected too. And they got to respect
Sometimes
you.
They don't know how to respect people. Yeah. All they know is fear. Yeah, all they know is I have to fear this guy.
So, but with that said, you have to do your due diligence. Even until today, I decided one of the guys that we were starting to do some business with, he ran out of money. So my partner Ross and I recently were like, okay, we'll come partners with you on this particular property, right? The due diligence that we did in the beginning with the contract, viewing the contract, doing this, doing that, it was so much that this guy's like, wow, why are you guys going so crazy? And we told him, we want to make sure from the beginning, from the foundation, that everything is right, everything is kosher. Because there's so much that could go wrong. And I know there were like, and we had, my attorney, Kim, get involved. And it was a lot of stuff. It was, there was 3 buyers. And the buyers that they had, there were 3 sellers, right? Only one of the 3 sellers had signed their contract. And then when we asked, she has power of attorney. I'm like, I'm not getting into that whole shit, right? Like, I've been there, seen that, done that. Do you know how many properties I've had with problems where somebody has power of attorney and then later on they come down and say, that was a fraudulent power of attorney or this and that, I didn't agree. And then there you go, you're fucked. You're in a lawsuit over title issues, right? Deed transfer. Are you kidding me? Like, who wants to deal with that shit? You have to, you got to just mitigate as much as you can. And what I tell people is, do your research. Never force anyone. Never let anyone to force you into a situation. If they're trying to be quick, be careful.
Yeah.
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 Because there shouldn't be anything. Well, you got an hour to make a decision. When someone gives that to you and the deal seems to be too good to be true, guess what it is?
A scam.
It's just too good to be true.
It's a scam.
It's a fucking scam, and you're gonna fall into it. So if you're gonna get into it, do it the right way.
100%. I think it is important that we tell the lessons that we learn from our flipping experience, not just the crime and all of that we have talked about. One of the things that I recently learned, and this is something that you and I are partnered in, is whenever you buy a property in a market, and we have talked about this before, and you have told me about this before. Whenever you move too far away from the median price, you have to have a very compelling proposition. The property has to have something very compelling.
Yep.
For you to move it out of the market, especially when we are in a buyer's market where interest rates are high, nobody wants to buy, and it's hard to get rid of properties.
Yeah.
So something that I can tell whoever is thinking about starting fix and flipping is make sure that the properties you get at the beginning are properties that are around the median price, because that's what goes out
the fastest.
Yeah, the fastest. Whenever you go a little above that and you start pushing that threshold, you're going to have a property in the market for a lot longer. Now, if you have a good profit margin, then by all means do it if it makes sense. But you never want to be in that situation where just because a house looks, like you said, too good to be true and it's too far away from the median price, it's just going to sit in the fucking market and you're going to be eaten by the payments.
You're going to be eaten by the payments. Your margins are going to get fucked. So I would say pick your lane. And your lane can't be in a market like a buyer's market. You have to either go affordable housing or unaffordable. Obviously, if you're going to get into the luxury market, the unaffordable housing, then you have to have the money to be able to play, right? If you're going to go into affordable, then you're going to have to deal with some of the elements that we talked about before, right? The crime and shit like that, right? But the problem is those two markets are the ones that are pretty much recession or economy proof, right? When you get into that middle class section is where you get fucked.
100%.
They're the ones, that group of people is the group of people that are most affected with the economy.
100%.
And that group of people is where if you're marketing towards them. Now, I'm not saying that they're not buying homes. They're still buying homes.
They're the bigger buyer group.
Right.
Yeah.
They're still going to buy, but at a slower rate when the shit hits the fan. And then the product that you're going to put out there, it better be the best fucking product.
So much competition.
It better be the best house that they're seeing with the best work, the best kitchen, the best this, the best everything. Because unless you're delivering the best in that market, your shit's going to sit.
They're cherry picking.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many houses around, those prices that they just have so many options.
Yep.
So something that I have learned is that market of the medium price houses is very straightforward. You cannot go too above what the neighborhood is demanding kitchen-wise. It's easier to remodel. It's easier to make it happen. Easier to get into because of price. But it's simple, but it doesn't mean it's easier, okay? It's harder to get a sale. It's harder to have that property be sold. Now, the clients that you have that they're doing luxury homes is a more complex game, but it's easier of a sell because they know exactly who are directing to. They already have that in mind. They know what they want, and they're out there looking for what they're putting out.
But I have to say, the successful ones that I know that play in that market deliver a fucking immaculate product.
Yeah, talk about that. Explain what is an immaculate product when you're talking.
They leave nothing to the imagination. People walk in and they know that if they're buying a $3.5-4 million house, that fucking house looks like a $3.5-4 million house.
So this is for luxury. This is not for the medium.
No. Now, in a buyer's market, where the medium homes are the ones that we're talking about that get crushed, that shit better look luxury for what it is.
Yeah.
Right? It better look like, different people. Like I have guys right now that are builders, and I only have one group of guys that are killing it in that medium market, right? But they're delivering such a fucking beautiful product, man. I mean, these guys it's so superior where you walk in and that their product is flying off the shelf.
Is this ground up? Is this fixed?
On ground up.
This is ground up.
This is on ground up.
Okay, so this is a different game. Yeah,
it's a different game.
Yeah, it's a different game.
But a little bit similar in terms of product, right?
Right.
Where the product that they're putting out, man, because they're not going cheap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
So what they're doing is they're buying right, and then they're not going cheap on anything. They're putting the best flooring that they can do based on that market, the best bathroom, the best everything that you can within that market, right? Obviously, they're not putting in crazy luxury shit because then it's not in that market.
Yeah, right.
But whatever you can imagine in that particular market, they're going all out and they're leaving nothing to the imagination, and their homes are flying off the shelf.
Yeah. Now it's important for people to understand that ground up and fix and flipping is a whole different. It's like a different game.
It's the same. They're both fruits, but one is an apple and one is an orange, right?
Correct.
They both look round and delicious.
You can eat them both. They have peels, but it's a completely different animal. I do not recommend anybody to start with ground up construction.
No.
I'm telling you as someone that has not done ground up construction.
No.
I'm sticking to flips for now.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
If you do decide to do it, even if you've been flipping homes, I tell people for the first 3 to 5 projects, take on a business partner that
has done it,
has not just done it, that's an expert. That is an expert builder.
And you want the best.
You want the best. Don't think about your bottom. I'm not saying don't make money, but what's more important is your knowledge is going to be way more important at that given time to learn from the best than just making sure that you earn the lion's share.
100%. I'm such a big advocate for that. So if you think about it this way, and this is the way that I've seen things for quite a while now, there is an ignorance debt that you need to pay.
Yep.
How fast and how decisive you pay off this debt will determine your future success on whatever industry you're on.
True.
One way or another, you're going to pay for it. There's different ways that you can pay for it. You just said partnering up and giving part of your profits to somebody that is way more experienced while you learn. You are paying that person, right, for partnering. And you're learning a lot, so you're paying off your debt. Now, the second way that you can do that is not partnering up, not getting a mentor, not paying for courses, not paying for events, but you will pay it on mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's way more costly, and it's way more sour, and it's going to take longer. So there's only two ways, and you have to choose which one you want. I highly recommend you pick the first one.
I agree. It's it's either you pay for experience, right? Or you pay to get experience.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Either way, you're paying.
Yeah.
Right?
Pay to get experience.
Right. To pay to get experience, sometimes it costs a lot more to pay for the experience. You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
So take on a partner. Don't get fucking greedy. I tell everybody this. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't listen. And then they get smacked.
If everybody listened and act on the good advice, I don't think there will be poor people on this planet.
So I have a good story for you. Okay? So on Instagram, this guy hits me up.
On the DMs.
On the DM. And he says, I have a big project that I want funding, this and that. Please call me. So I call him up and we're talking through it. And that's, you know what's most valuable to me is if somebody has experience, but what's called like for like. That means have you built, XYZ before, right? So he says, yeah, I put up 2 homes. I said, okay, you put up 2 homes, but you're trying to put up 200 fucking homes. I said, you just put up 2 homes. So there's a big difference between 2 homes and 200 homes. He's like, well, I'm a veteran.
A veteran on what? On
military? Military.
Okay.
He goes, I figured that you would support a veteran and do something like this. I said, I'm doing better than you supporting. I'm educating you that you're going to make a fucking mistake here if you move forward from 2 to 200 without taking a partner. I said, I am more than supporting a veteran. I'm keeping a veteran from destroying himself. I said, take that as advice that I'm giving you free. I said, don't take it that, I'm not helping a veteran. I'm fucking helping the veteran by telling him not to do something. And he wouldn't listen. He got irate. He got crazy. I'm like, there's no need to get crazy, man.
How old is this guy?
Well, it was, in his 50s probably.
His 50s.
40s, 50s. And I get it. And I get the vision. And, he's a bishop now and everything like that. I get the whole thing that they're trying to build homes for affordable housing. I got the whole vision. I understand. But what I was trying to explain to him was, your vision is one thing. I said, but executing your vision is something else. And I told him, I said, this is for profit. It's not for nonprofit.
Oh, it's for profit.
Yeah, it's for profit.
Yeah.
I said, you're the one you're going to be greedy and you're going to destroy yourself. And you're not going to be able to put up 200 homes. You've only put up 2 homes in your own life. So you want to do a community. That's a whole different story. And that's, and that was that,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it is with people. If you think about lifting weights, most of us have lifted weight at least once in our life. If you're used to deadlifting 100 pounds, how in your right mind would you decide one day that you're going to put 400 pounds?
Or even 1,000. Over here it's 1,000.
Yeah, over here's 1,000.
Without getting hurt.
Are you even going to be able to grip the bar?
You can't.
You know what I'm talking about?
Man.
There is a progression to everything. You have to respect the progression that things have.
I agree.
If not, you're going to snap one way or another.
And that's what I try to tell people. And what I've come to understand and realize is that people don't want the advice that they want is what they want to hear. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I call those people? I call them ask-holes. You know what an asshole is?
What is that?
An asshole is someone who asks for advice from so many people until they get the advice that they want to hear. You get what I'm saying? So they're not asking for genuine advice. They're asking for you to give them the advice to validate what they want to hear.
Look,
does that make sense to you?
Oh, 100%. There's a term for that. So in psychology,
it's called ASCO.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to confirm their self-delusions. So everybody will always, as a defense mechanism, okay? Life is not easy, and you know this.
Yeah.
Some people tend to go to self-delusion, where they just create these fantasies, and all they're looking for is for other people to confirm the theories that they have visualized, the fantasies they have visualized in their minds. And that's what you call assholes.
Yeah,
I love that term.
Asshole. That's it.
Yeah. Let's go into why do fix and flip. I'm going to tell you why I'm doing it, and you can tell me why you think people should do fix and flip. The reason why I'm doing fix and flip is because I want to, in a faster pace, grow my capital. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm not looking for steady returns. I'm not looking for a secure income. All I'm looking is to parlay, like you say, and bring up a good amount of capital so one day I can put it in a steady income avenue. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why I'm doing it. Now, that doesn't mean that this is a glamorous way of doing it. It's very tedious. It's very hands-on. And it's very tiring. Like Steve said, you need thick skin for this game. But there is good money in this. If you do it well, there is good money, and you can multiply your wealth fast if you're doing it well. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Why someone like you?
Well, I've been doing it for so many years, 30 years.
What were your reasons?
Wealth, make money. It's the best way to make money.
Instead of putting it in a rental?
Yeah. I mean, look, rental, I'm not going to say no. I own rentals. I mean, we own buildings all over the place in New York. Hopefully here soon. But it's a different game. It's just, you with rentals, you have to have patient money, and you're going to make money over time and steadily over time, right? But with fix and flips or builds or things like that, you're going to be able to increase your wealth a lot faster. So even on rentals, unless you're buying, I don't recommend people buying normal rentals at, let's say, a certain cap rate, right? To me, it's a mistake. So if you're buying a property that's already been fixed, it's already, looks beautiful, and you're getting that, and you're getting, let's say, a 4 or 5 cap rate, it's not sexy to me. You're not, you're cheating the system. You know what I'm saying? Because who really took the benefit of everything is the guy that actually fixed it and sold it
to you, yeah.
Right? Are you going to take a benefit? Yeah.
It's going to take too long, though.
It's going to take a long time. Your kids are going to see that benefit. I recommend that even if you're going to get into the rental game, what you do is you don't cut corners. If you're going to commit, fucking commit. Find a property that's undervalued, that needs value add, meaning it needs to be fixed up. You're buying it under value, right? And you have to put work into it. And what does that accomplish? Your cost basis is lower, right? You've already then built in extra equity into the deal. And for you to be able to cash flow, because your cost basis is lower, is a lot easier. Your cap is more, and you've already built in extra equity, right?
Right.
The other way, you're just get into it with zero equity.
At all.
You know the equity that you're going to have?
Yeah.
Is what you fucking put down. So if you put 10%, your equity is 10%. You put 20%, your fucking equity is 20%. It's not, it's basically what you put into the property, what you bought it for.
And whatever low appreciation you get per year.
Right. So I'm not talking people out of it. I'm just saying, if you don't have the time and you want to invest, okay, I agree. But if you really want to get into the real estate game and make an impact for yourself, a legitimate impact where you're going to be able to take advantage of that in your own lifetime, and it's not for your kids or your legacy, that's the only way to do it, in my opinion.
Fix and flipping.
Fix and flipping, or fix and holding. Depends what you want to do. You want to fix, flip, earn money right away, or you want to fix, hold, create equity. Your cash flow is going to be better, right? Your cap rate's going to be better, and then move on to the next project,
Right.
right? And there's plenty of ways you could do it. People are like, well, how? I don't have enough money. Once you fix it, you could pull out the money that you took to fix the property, at least, right? And then move on to the next one and use that money.
Correct.
And your cost basis is still going to be lower than buying it already fixed.
So basically what I'm getting, and tell me if I'm right, what I'm understanding that you want to tell them is the fixed part has always to be there.
Yes.
Because
the value add, the fixed part. Yeah.
Exactly. The value add. When you say fixed, we're talking about value add.
Yes.
Why is a value add? But why sometimes people think that just because you're fixing it, you're making a value add. No, it's not about that. The thing is that most of these houses, nobody wants to go through the hard work of fixing it and making it look pretty again.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And that's why you're putting equity into the house, because you're making it look par with whatever the market is. But it's hard work. And this is one of the things that people underestimate on a fix and flip. Okay? Number one, whenever you're fixing a property, there's always something that you don't see, that you will see later on after you're starting the project.
Yeah, it's true.
It happens to me at every home that I have fixed and flipped. So now what I do is, after I have my budget of, let's say it's going to cost me $40K to fix this house, I add a 20% on it.
Yeah. Listen, I got to be honest with you. It's not just, I have news for everyone. It's not just homes that you fix and you flip. Even fucking homes that you own to live in, you don't know what the fuck you're getting at the end of the day, right? I bought my house. I did the inspection and everything else, right? Guess what ended up happening? Just a year ago, there was black mold that we didn't know about.
Where?
Yeah, upstairs, right?
In the movie area?
In the movie area, yeah. There was black mold.
Inside the walls, or what was it?
Inside the walls, yep. And I basically had to pay out of my ass to remove that black mold.
Was it all over the
upstairs? Yeah.
In the ceiling?
Yep. The ceiling.
Was it moist? Was it because of water?
It was because of the cooling system.
It was condensating and creating a humidity environment.
Creating humidity environment, and even with a home inspector is not going to rip the fucking sheetrock to look at that. So it's not like I could blame the home inspector that they missed something.
I mean, they can tell that when there's humidity, though.
There is.
They have the scanners.
I do, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening, that I think that this kind of started progressing while I lived in it. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't come up on the scanner. The problem was there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So the problem was there a little bit, but over time,
it
that 2 years, 3 years, it built up to a point where it became black mold. And I have kids. I can't fucking, no one can. So almost any property that I bought, like you said, even when I had a brand new construction property, there were problems with the property on a brand new construction. So you could figure that out. Brand new.
Yeah. No, houses always have something unexpected.
Yeah. 100%.
No matter what. No matter
what.
So, talking about fix and flipping, there's a lot of people that see these shows on HGTV and they say, "Oh, I want to get into that. Look how much money they made on that house." And it's true, you do make money. And personally, there's very few satisfying thing as once you complete a project and you sell it off and you get your gains and you get all your capital back. Is a very satisfying feeling.
Yeah, it's addicting.
But they don't tell you all the stuff that you have to do even before you get the house. What is the first thing you need before getting into that house? You need funding.
You need funding, correct.
So let's talk about what is the best ways that you recommend that people get funding to fix and flip houses. Should they go to the bank? Should they ask for families?
So I always tell everybody, the first thing that they need to do is own their own home first, right? And I even recommend that if it's your first home and you're single, or if you're married without kids and you can do this, the best thing you could do, the same thing we said before, value add, buy a house that needs some love, undervalued, okay? undervalued so that you could create extra equity in there for yourself. Buy it undervalued. It's your first home. Get what's called a 203K loan for that through the FHA 203K, which will give you money. You put 3% down. You get money for the purchase of the house and for the repairs, right? Do that. Fix the house up beautifully. Live in it. If you can have a multifamily house and do that, 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit, occupy one of the floors. Again, if you can, if you're single, if you're married without children, and that's not going to inhibit your life, right? That should be your first investment. Now, your second investment, you could kind of do the same thing. Move out of that house, rinse and repeat. After a year, 2 years, 3 years, do the same thing if you can, right? Now, once you've gotten that under your belt and you're like, shit, I'm serious about doing this, you can go get private money, right? Private money, they're not going to look at your income. It's not like going to the bank where the bank's going to say, you're not going to qualify. We're not going to give it to you. Give us your tax returns. Give us your W-2s and stuff like that. It's no income. They're going to completely base the loan on the ability of the property to make a profit. Does that make sense to you? So what they're going to do is they're going to look at what let's say me is how much are you buying the house for? How much work does it need? And what's the resale value when it's done, right? As a private lender, that's all I give a shit about, right? I don't care about anything else. It's not like a bank where you're going to have to go in and show your tax returns and show you,
right.
Everything. Now,
right.
Obviously, if you have that stuff and you can get better terms from the bank, God bless you, go ahead and do it because you're going to get cheaper money. But you're going to go through, an anal cavity search to get the money. It is difficult to get money from a bank, right? Why do you think banks have fucking vaults?
Especially if you haven't built that relationship yet.
Yeah.
And it's your first
Even when you have a relationship. I know plenty of people, they have to keep up with that. They have to show, even really wealthy people that get money from the bank, they're just not, my whole thing is, why do banks have vaults? Because it's difficult to fucking get money from them, right? So even rich people have to show, hey, I make this much money, this and that. I mean, I give plenty of money to rich people. Why? Because even when they go to the bank only says, all right, I'm only going to give you, based on your income and everything else, you can only borrow up to, let's say, $10 million. Right? When they've surpassed $10 million,
that's it.
Then they come to someone like me because I don't care. Not that I want the property to go bad or for them to get hurt. I'm a private lender. I give a shit about the property. Is the property going to make money? Right? So if they're coming to me for a fix-a-flip, what is the as-is value? How much work does it need? How much is it going to be worth after? That's all I care about. Right? And obviously I give a shit about their experience. Have they done it before? Right? Now, the bank is going to give more shit. Can they basically qualify regularly for that loan, which we don't do? So that's the benefit. The other thing is speed, right? When you're trying to buy one of these homes, speed is the key. Why? Because you're not the only one that's in the game that's looking to buy that house. There's probably 10, 15, 20 other people that are trying to buy the house, right? Whoever is going to close the fastest is going to get, the deal.
Especially in an auction or wholesale environment.
Yep. Auction and wholesale environment. Yep.
Yeah, and that's where usually you want to buy the properties. If you're buying them at retail price in the market, good luck.
Yep.
You can find deals, but it's so hard.
It's
and most of the time, they're not deals.
Yep.
All right. Last question is fix and flipping still a good play in today's environment?
It's a two-sided answer. It depends where you're fixing and you're flipping. I don't see much because of the rate environment today, right? because a lot of people got into homes at such low rates in the early 2020s, right? Flips are far and few between that makes sense. Where do they make sense more? Usually in secondary or tertiary market, BC markets, right? Like those, like secondary, tertiary markets, or the hood, or ultra luxury, which there's a barrier to entry on all the one that I just described. Barrier entry in the hood is you got to have fucking thick skin to start flipping homes in the hood, and you have to know what you're doing, or else you're gonna get eaten up alive, literally, right? Then on the luxury side, you better fucking have that experience. Like, you better have that experience on the luxury side to know what you need to deliver in that market, or else you're gonna get killed. And you have to have the money, right?
Massive way.
You have to have money. I mean, you've got to have, a couple of $1 million to be able to play in that game, right? So that's the barrier entry there, is knowledge and money, right? Then in the secondary, tertiary markets, the challenge is usually a lot of people that want to invest don't live in those markets.
Most people don't.
Right? So what's the challenge there? Are you willing to drive that hour and a half, 2 hours to go do that? And unfortunately, a lot of people work, right? So they can't make that trip every day because it's an everyday fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, I'm not trying to talk people out of it. I'm just trying to be realistic. This is not HGTV. This is the fucking truth. Mm-hmm. So you've got to make that time investment to be able to do that today, to find a flip that makes sense, that you're just not, going to break even or close to break even or make some little money.
So let's see if I got it right. Yes, but you have to pay the price either on time, money, or experience.
Correct. Or guts. Like chutzpah. Like you better fucking have the balls to go into certain markets to do it. That makes sense, right?
And I think you need balls for all of them, but especially investing in the hood.
Of course.
You need a lot.
You need to have thick skin.
Yeah.
You're investing in the hood, you better have thick skin. If you don't have thick skin, stay away. It's not your thing. You're better off going to the secondary and tertiary markets.
Start there and just drive.
Yeah, and just drive. Take the pain.
Take it. There's no other way.
Take the pain. Only way to do it. Now, are things going to change? Yes. When rates come down, things are going to open up in different markets. But again, when things open up,
there's more competition.
There's a lot more competition.
Either way, it's always going to be difficult.
It's going to be difficult.
Until you become good enough where it's not difficult.
Yeah.
That's just what
Until you set up the system.
Pay the price.
Yep, pay the price.
Well, man, thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. Well, that was episode number 22 with my guest, reoccurring guest, Manuel Gonzamonte. We'll see you later. Bye. You've been listening to The Game of Loans, where real estate battles are fought and won. Make sure to fortify your defenses by subscribing. Cash flow is coming, and we'll be back next time to help you claim your throne. The war of wealth continues.